Kia ora. On this coming Sunday, the fourth Sunday in Advent, we're going to have a Christingles service at St. Luke's. The origins of which the Christingles service goes back to the Moravian Church in Germany in 1747. In the Northern Hemisphere, the weather cooperates with the liturgy. Advent is a time of gloom and darkness and cold. Liturgy doesn't talk about the weather, but it uses gloom, darkness and cold to point to the suffering in the world. Grief, loneliness, poverty, war. All those things and more with the dark and cold of the night before Christmas. Then at a Christingles service, along comes an orange. Don't ask me why it's an apple, but it's not. It's an orange. The orange symbolizes the world, the planet Earth. And around its circumference is a bright ribbon, often purple, symbolizing God's love. Love wraps itself around the world, held in place by a pin. And I don't think the pin symbolizes anything. Then there are 4 toothpicks stuck into the orange. They too aren't symbolic of anything. But on the toothpicks are colourful lollies. These lollies, note licorice all sorts are the best, represent the 4 seasons of the year. Although on a Christingle, the lollies all look bright and beautiful, not just summer and spring. And lastly, most importantly for a Christingle, there is a candle stuck in the top, which is lit at the end of the service. This candle represents Jesus coming as light of the world. That is, through Jesus' way of loving and including, and his followers' ways of loving and including, the dark, cold, suffering would not only find relief, but would be restored into a community of belonging and purpose, a community of light. So Jesus is the candle, the light, but so too are we to be candles and lights to others, and a community of light. The children's story I'll read this Sunday is called Light the Lamps by Margaret and D. Huxley. It's a different type of story than most Christmas children's stories. For most Christmas stories are joyous and jingly, with gifts given or anticipated, with generosity and kindness encouraged. Sometimes there's Santa, or a Christmas pageant, or a talking animal or two. Light the Lamps is more of an Advent story, set in a context of what I said earlier about dark and cold, when we hope for light, but it hasn't arrived yet. And unlike Advent and Christmas, this book has Jesus as a toddler. My guess, a 2-year-old. The dark and cold of the book, Light the Lamps, is about pain, rejection, and longing. And the light is about acceptance and inclusion. The story is told by a young girl who's been brought up by her step-parents. Goodness me, my phone just talks by itself. How do phones talk by themselves? Maybe it just needs to power off. Anyway, the story is by a young girl who's been brought up by her step-parents. Her stepmother hasn't been able to give birth to children, and the pain of that is ever present in the book. There are many women who know that pain, and the story invites us to be understanding empathetic, and kind. This pain is symbolized in a little carved camel that the stepmother has kept for the hoped-for child of her womb, a gift to give her newborn baby after its birth. There is pain too for the young girl, the storyteller, who longs to be fully accepted by her stepmother. She'd love a little camel carved for her too. The context of the story is Palestine, more specifically Nazareth, in the 1st century CE. For the young girl has befriended Mary, Joseph, and their toddler Jesus. And she gets a lot of joy out of playing with Jesus. Indeed, by playing with him, she feels, despite her experiences to the contrary, that the world is a good place and all shall be well. Young children can still do that to us too when we play with them. The girl wants her stepmother to experience this feeling that the world is a good place and all shall be well. And she wants her to meet the toddler Jesus. But it is too difficult, too painful for her stepmother. One day, however, as chance would have it, the young girl and her stepmother happened to meet Mary and Jesus at the market. And before she knows it, they're at Mary's house, and a sleeping child is placed in her stepmother's arms. When they return home, the stepmother gives the girl a shaky smile and a hug. She fetches the little camel and places it in her hand, and then she lights every candle in the house. Apart from a chance meeting in the market, there is no deus ex machina in the story, no magical angel or Santa or God coming down to make everything okay. Instead, there is pain and struggle, and finally some acceptance and sense for the girl, and maybe too for her stepmom, of deeper belonging. Christmas, with its emphasis on babies and families, can be very hard on some people. Through the power of persistence, think of the actions of the girl, the power of physical touch, both for the girl and for her stepmom, and the power of friendship with the toddler Jesus and Mary. Some healing comes for both the girl and her stepmom. To believe in Jesus is to believe that every child is a holy child. To believe in Jesus is to believe that the human race can transform into the human family. To believe in Jesus is to believe that we can be transformers, bringer of the light of hope, by being tenacious, by being kind, and by being not afraid. The story concludes with the lighting of candles, lamps in the house, symbolizing light driving out the darkness of rejection and pain, symbolizing hope of a new tomorrow, traveling with sorrow but not being overwhelmed by it, traveling together in sorrow and hope rather than being and feeling alone. Blessings to you this day.